welcome to Silverstone for After the Flag edition 12. Coming up in the show today, of course, we talk about one of the closest MotoGP finishes that we have ever seen as Alex Rins wins his second ever Grand Prix here at Silverstone. I'm here with Birt and Simon Crafar to discuss that amazing race as we go through that. Of course, we'll have our predictions as well from earlier in the weekend, but we have to start at the very beginning because, of course, there was major drama, boys. We came into this weekend wondering who might win. We thought it could be a 6-7 dice battle for the victory. It didn't pan out like that, but, of course, two major players out of the race within seconds, Matt. Coming around turn one, Rins had a twitch, Quartararo then lost the rear end and consequently went down. Dovizioso pummels into him, both of them down. Dovizioso looking really hurt, nightmare.
Chaos and carnage at the first corner, wasn't it? Fabio didn't get the best of jumps off the line. I think the crash was conditioned by Alex Rins. He was in wide, trying to get on that gas as hard as he could. He had the big moment, his left foot was off the foot peg, and from what I gather, I've not had a chance to catch up with Fabio Quartararo, but Fabio, obviously, he cut the throttle because he thought Rins is going over the handlebars here. Off throttle high side, the cold right-hand side of the tyre put Fabio into orbit. Of course, he was down. Andrea Dovizioso, nowhere to go. Unfortunately, Andrea, it was a really big crash. Lots of barrel rolls through the tarmac as well. From what we understand, he was relatively okay, but he did need to go to hospital for some precautionary checks. He was a little bit dizzy-dovey, wasn't he, afterwards? That didn't really have much recollection of the crash, but unfortunately, you've got to say, after all that early drama, like you said, Steve, two of the big guys taken out of the race, and Andrea Dovizioso now, for me, taken out of the championship. It's all over. He's not going to come back from this one.
Yeah, I can't really argue with anything Matt says there, Simon. What was your take on the crash itself and, of course, the state of the championship? 78 points. I can't see anyone clawing that back.
Championship, it's a little bit sad for me. I like it when it's really close.
Oh, yeah,
but everybody I spoke to coming into this race, you two, team managers and riders, all said it's going to be a big fight. You know, we're all looking forward to this big scrap, and I think the crash at the first turn and then later tyre problems for so many riders, well, a good three that should have been in there anyway, basically took away that epic race that we expected. You know, it was really sad for me.
Well, let's talk about the race, and we've got to talk about the two main men in it, Alex Rins and Marquez. Just a fascinating match-up between these two guys. Alex Rins, who, to be honest, until free practice 4, hadn't really shown that many signs of the pace, although Davide Brivio had mentioned to you that he was quite confident. But what an amazing encounter between these two. Marquez, Rins going at it. Rins had a good long look at Marquez throughout that race, and obviously supreme edge grip, Matt, but that move in the last corner, I mean, the last two laps were magnificent.
So much to admire about Alex Rins' work today. I mean, 15th at the end of practice on Friday. Everybody was thinking, blimey, what's happened to Rins in the Suzuki? But he was laying the foundations on Friday for what happened this afternoon. He did all of his groundwork on Friday, ran all through those 4 front tyre and rear tyre options. He wasn't worried about that explosive one hot lap because he wanted to be ready for what happened here today. It was unbelievable that the last 2 laps, you know, Alex said himself after the race talking to Simon, he actually thought he was on the last lap when he made that brilliant move on that left-hander through the loop. We thought then he got it done and dusted. The Suzuki was working brilliantly in that first sector. We know it's agile, it's easy to flick around, but it had the much better edge grip. The penultimate lap when he rode around the outside of Mark through Woodcote, I just had this flashback to Robertson Sheen, 1979, 40 years ago. And then the last lap, I'm going to hold my hands up a little bit like Austria. I thought Marquez had got it nailed.
Yeah.
I thought Mark was going to win. I couldn't see the way that Alex was going to fight back, but he had that crucial better edge grip through Woodcote, the final corner. Marquez, you can see, spun up that rear tyre, that cost him a bit of drive. What a race. The 4th closest finish in the 70-year history of the championship. Classic race, classic British weather. What more could we ask for?
Simon, in terms of that, I mean, it's almost, they were both so classy, it's almost disappointing to see one of them lose out.
Yeah, that's true. You're dead right. That's how I felt. The thing is, I spoke to Manu, the crew chief of Alex Rins, last night, you know, about our predictions. And he picked Alex the second, you know, because, and I said, after the race, I said, how did you know he was going to go that well? And he said, looking at the data, sometimes Alex does this. You can tell he's got a little bit in reserve. He's not pushing, like, and he said, when it comes Sunday, he uses that last bit up. And I thought, Manu was saying, if he can do that, I think he's going to, you know, do the race. So he didn't think he'd win it.
No.
But the thing is, when it came down to that last lap, I thought he would have a go, but I thought it was all over when they got into this last stadium section. I did not think he'd get back past. Marquez said that he went into that last turn fast. When he rolled the throttle back, he thought he was pushing the front and was scared to get back on the throttle coming out of there. Alex obviously felt so confident, and big thumbs up to Suzuki, because at the end they're both brilliant riders, but if you can give a rider that extra feel and confidence, he's going to do something brilliant like Alex did.
Well, we'll talk about everyone else and the reaction to this race in a moment. Let's just quickly now go to the predictions, because as you can probably guess from what Simon just said there, none of us predicted Alex Rins was going to win the race here today. Let's have a look and see what we said here yesterday. OK, well, it's my home Grand Prix, the British Grand Prix here at Silverstone. I have to say, this is the most difficult call of the year. Genuinely, I'm completely puzzled over about 6 or 7 riders. So I've said it from the start, I'm going to go with Fabio Quartararo to win here at Silverstone, and I'm going to go Marc Marquez second and Valentino Rossi third.
Wow, where to start? My head is really hurting trying to think about predictions for this British Grand Prix. The toughest one of the year so far for me, but Marquez after his performance in FP4, I'm going for Marquez to win. I'm going to have Valentino Rossi to hold station in second place, and I think after his brilliant performance throughout practice, Fabio Quartararo will be on the podium as well. So Marquez, Rossi, Quartararo for me, but who knows? It's going to be a real tough one.
I think this is going to be a really hard race. I hope it's a good one. I think Fabio and Marquez are going to have a bit of a battle in there. I hope they are, so we get entertained. I think Marc's going to win it. I think Fabio's going to get second. And in third, it's really, really hard to call for me. I think Dovi will be there. I think hopefully Jack will be there. Maverick is going to be there. Rins going to be there. But I think Valley is going to grab this opportunity with both hands and get third.
OK, well, somehow I've managed to take a win there with Marc Marquez coming in second, although I'm going to
never hear the end of this.
No, I'm going to admit it's a hollow victory, because I didn't see Alex taking that win, and I really thought Valentino would feature. Why don't we just talk about Valentino while we're there, because I really had a feeling this morning for Valentino. He was buzzed up for it. He had great pace on Friday, cracking qualifying lap. Guys, what happened?
Well, I agree with you, Steve. I think just coming into the circuit this morning after that brilliant lap that put him on the front row on Saturday, there was like this sort of special buzz, this special vibe around Silverstone. I think he was convinced he was going to be fighting for the victory. Yamaha were, and certainly the Yellow Army were as well, but it never really happened at all, did it? I mean, apparently Valentino after the race said, it's been baking hot here today. Who would have thought that race day in Silverstone was the hottest race day we've had so far this year? 31 degrees, 29 degrees previously in Mugello. That was a factor, and I think a few guys in the race with that real scorching hot track temperature, they ran into a few rear tyre issues. I think Valentino was one of them. I've heard Jack Miller and Cal Crutchlow mentioned as well. So it was a race of attrition really for Valentino. He's going to be really, really frustrated, because it looked like on paper yesterday he was going to have a great chance of being on the podium at least.
Simon?
Yes, I thought Valentino was going to grab this opportunity with both hands. I think he did, but I think he ran into a rear tyre problem, I'm not saying that I'm defending my prediction, but I really think Valentino, Cal and Jack would have been there without these rear tyre problems. Like you said, Valentino said he doesn't think it was Michelin, it was Yamaha, something set up there. But Jack and Cal clearly think it was the problem with the tyre. I heard pieces were out of Jack's tyre, so, and Cal felt confident for the race, and it didn't happen. He said it was all about rear grip.
Well, the thing is with Rossi, I mean, it must be something, Simon, because the pace that he showed on Friday and Saturday, I mean, OK, it was a bit hotter today, but he couldn't match that. He was nowhere near it.
No, and Valentino on Sunday always pulls something out of the bag. I think there was something wrong, genuinely.
Well, that's got to be so demoralising, and Simon would know more than us, demoralising and deflating for a rider like Valentino, who thinks he's going to go into the race with a real good crack at winning, and pretty much from the first lap he's in trouble, and he's thinking, it's not going to happen today. I'm fighting a losing battle here. That's got to be frustrating.
Well, he was sinking, wasn't he, through the race as well, and ultimately, just to add insult to injury, as you just mentioned, the teammate goes and beats you as well, which is the sort of worst case scenario, really. Quick one on Maverick Vinales. Not a bad start to the race, guys. Some brilliant pace towards the end. I mean, perhaps another couple of laps, and he might have been in that mix on the line.
Well, at one stage, I think when Maverick got through on Valentino, he was about 2.5 seconds back. There was a long time to go in that race, but we thought, were Marquez and Rins going to drop their pace sufficiently enough for Maverick to get back in there? But Maverick, as he so often does, second half of the race, he had brilliant speed, brilliant consistency. He knew that was coming. In FP4 on Saturday, he did a really impressive stint, quite similar to Marquez on that hard option rear tyre. So Maverick knew he was going to be in the game. He just wasn't quite close enough, to be honest. Another couple of laps, and we might have had a different outcome.
Well, the championship then is looking the way it is now, Simon. I mean, you probably look now at Alex Rins and say, were it not for those two crashes when he was in really good positions, he'd probably be in second position chasing Marquez. And Marquez is still the man in charge, though, despite the fact that he's lost out in the last two Grand Prix to Dovizioso on the last corner, Rins on the last corner. He is still the man to beat, and rightly so.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see what's going to happen here. You know, I don't know about everyone else, but I was thinking about that little bust-up they had at Brno when it came down to the last lap. You know, I'm talking Rins and Marquez, how they seemed like quite friendly in Parc Ferme. It seemed like all cool. But I really think that Alex would like to do it again, you know, and there's a couple of other guys that want to. So I hope there's some good races and Mark can't just dominate from here.
These guys are having to dig so deep just to beat him, just to be on par with Mark. You know, Andrea Dovizioso after Austria said it was the best win of his Grand Prix career. I bet Alex Rins is probably saying the same thing. These guys are having to ride on another level, taking themselves to places they've not been, digging deep into that talent pool. They're having to have the races of their lives to even be close to Mark, let alone beat him. That shows the level that Mark is on.
OK, well, I think that just about wraps things up here from Silverstone. There's so much more to talk about, but we've got back-to-back rounds coming up, of course, from here to go to Misano, and then we will go to Aragon. We get a weekend off after that. Thanks for joining us here at a blazing Silverstone. We're going to get a sunburn. Thanks for joining us. Enjoy the last moments of that cracking race from Silverstone. It's goodbye. Away we go. Brilliant start from Marquez from top.
Oh, Quartararo! Is that Dovizioso?
I think it is.
It's
Unbelievable.
1 lap to go. It's Marquez versus Rins around the outside of Woodcote.
They're side by side. Unbelievable. Rins is off the circuit almost.
1 corner to go. Marquez versus Rins.
Rins is going to have another look. Surely not. And he's got it.
He's done it.
Rins has poached it.
Unbelievable.